Hello, class. It is Thursday, May the 26th. It is currently 4 p.m. Central Time. This is PLAR History and Geography live here at Wausau and Silico. Again, my name is Jonathan. I am your teacher for this course. We are at week number 6, at the end of week number 6. Again, there are 3 weeks left in this term, term 2B. And I think now it's officially 16 more school days left, if I can count properly, but we're almost done at the end of this term. So again, continue to work hard on those assignments, get them into your teacher as soon as you can. That way we can mark it, give you timely feedback, and then you can write your tests and be done with. Again, just a reminder, the deadline to submit any work, any PLAR work here at Wausau is Friday, June the 17th. That is the last official day to submit any work. So again, work hard, don't be discouraged. Get in all your work and assignments by this due date. Again, there's 3 more weeks left after this term for term 2B. After that, graduation, summer, and term 3 starts for anyone who want to take courses during the summer. But PLAR teachers and teachers, there won't be any assignments marked after the due date as we're not here. So term 3 will just be like an IL and so forth. The goal for today class, the agenda for today class is first we're going to do a bit of review of what we talked about last class. And then we'll have maybe a little music break. We'll change things up. Maybe we'll play some tunes, play some music as a little 5-minute music break once we're done that. And then we'll get into today's lesson, starting with lesson number 5, looking at physical geography, looking at regions here in Canada. Very short lesson, hence why I want to do a bit of review and throw in a little music break, but very short lesson, and we'll look over assignment number 11 at the end of this course. But before we do all that, let's talk about how you can listen and how you can participate. Again, feel free to listen by radio or call the Wausau studio. If you want to say hello, ask any questions, want to engage and participate that way. Again, feel free to give me a call during my office hours. I'm always there in office Monday to Fridays. If you have any questions or want to remark or want to know how you're doing, give me a shout, give me a call, and we can figure that out. Again, you can always reach me by evenings if that works best for you on my cell here for take. Again, if I don't pick up the phone either in my office, just leave a message. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If you don't leave a message, then I don't know who called, then I will not call back. Again, feel free to send me an email as well. I know that a lot of DC send me emails. Facebook, inbox me at jhowasa. Again, you can find all of our lessons today and before on the archive page and on my YouTube channel. So we finish up lesson number 4 in geography. We'll start lesson 5 halfway through today's class. Again, very short lesson for today. And we'll go from there. Again, lesson number 5, we'll start that today. And we'll finish up the rest of this course in lesson number 5 with physical geography, as it is a huge lesson. Again, if you have internet access, again, log on to Smart Bridget live in class. Again, if you would like a USB stick with all the content, let us know. Absolutely for free. So, if there aren't any questions, let's do a bit of review of what we talked about last class. Then we'll have a little music break. And then we'll start off with today's lesson. Again, very short lesson for today. We'll get to that very, very shortly. But last class, we wrapped things up by looking at lesson number 4, looking at human geography. We looked at the 3 main topics covered in human geography. We looked at economics, We looked at urban or urbanism, geography, and then we looked at military geography. So let's do a bit of review and start with looking at urban geography. Again, class, lots of definitions, nothing new here. So urban geography can be classified as the study of urban settlements, often development of cities, towns, and communities, uh, often located around urban, highly dense populated area. But again, it's not limited to smaller communities and smaller towns as well. It looks at the study of the population, who lives there, why does it grow, why does it decrease, the patterns within the city, what makes it popular, what attracts people to that particular area. Different factors come into play. When looking at urban geography, looking at the city, the town, or community, urban population area tends to have more problems. As a result, there's more policies, and again, it could impact quality of life, give or take. We know that as urban area grows, it leads to expansion. And as it leads to expansion, we need to clear more land so that we can build more homes and jobs for others. Now, as a result, that really impacts, for example, species and wildlife. If we are expanding, we need to um, extract all of the forests and plants and clear all the grass so that we can make more homes. Again, that impacts wildlife. It could lead to species being extinct. And again, that impacts the human populations as well. Again, wildlife are gone, biodiversity are affected. Again, it is not the intent of what we are trying to do here. Let's look at quality of life for example. Quality of life, something that you'll need to be able to explain and identify on the assignments. Again, quality of life in society pretty much means being happy, having and living a healthy lifestyle, being prosperous. Again, having a healthy lifestyle reflect on life expectancy, where you can live, do much things longer, improve quality of life. Again, you'll live much longer. And here in Canada, we tend to have a higher quality of life. Again, we're going back to laying that to urban geography. Again, clear cutting, eliminating land creates more jobs and creates new opportunity. So we can say that, why not write this out? So new land equals jobs, especially if you want to live in urban areas. Again, by clear cutting, we talked about species being extinct. We talked about wildlife being gone, biodiversity are affected. Again, it is based on human emotion. Again, by clear cutting and eliminating wildlife and sacrificing, it's all about human emotions. That's all that's equals their project. Again, the intent is not to sacrifice wildlife and animals and their homes. It has to be clear cut and create more jobs in terms of new land, expanding our cities, our communities, and the growth, expanding our population. Again, our intent is not to sacrifice wildlife and biodiversities and other trees and our ecosystem. Again, the intent here is to create a healthier or happier lifestyles for people. Again, new opportunity, new adventures, new jobs, new journeys. Again, all this goes back into human emotions. Again, it's not intent, it's just their project. It's like what I like to call it. But again, quality of life in society, it's all about being happy and living a healthy lifestyle. Again, But doing all that leads to a longer life expectancy. And here in Canada, we have that. So here living in Canada, we talked about Canada is a slow growing population. Even though we are a massive country, second largest in the world, coast to coast, um, large different diversity of landmass and culture and people. We are a slow growing population. Again, we have between 35 to 36 million people living here in Canada. Fewer children are being born compared to different countries around the world. However, people tend to live much longer in terms of the life expectancy here in Canada. Again, being happy, being healthy leads to a higher quality of life. Here in Canada, most people live up until at least the age of 65 or plus, give or take, maybe even more. Again, that's great compared to other countries, developing countries around the world. Here in Canada, we're really dependent on two main factors, and those are education, schooling. Okay, education is great. Again, we also have healthcare, free healthcare in Canada, whether you're sick or needs to be checked on. Again, we have that all here in Canada. Those are the factors that leads to a healthy living society that we have here in Canada. That's modern, that is growing, that is healthy. Schooling and education. We also talked about military geography, again, which is the third main topic in human geography, military geography. So let's define that once again, do a bit of review. Military geography, again, is a specialized field when looking at geography. Very, very different, very, very unique. Again, when we talk about geography, we often think about a map, a globe, Canada, provinces, capital cities, and whatnot. But military geography, again, is a specialized field within the examination of geography. It deals with natural and man-made physical features that may affect planning and conduct of military options. Anything that relates to defenses, military operations, and international relations and organizations, that all falls under military geography. How we relate to other nations in terms of warfare or crisis or what's happening here and there, that all fall under military geography. So for example, the United Nations, the UN, falls under military geography. It promotes peace, security, and economic development. So again, as you recall from our history portion, we look lots about the UN, we learn about it, what their goals, what the purpose are, how it was established after the First World War and the Second World War, and what its intent was supposed to do. Again, promote peace, security, and economic development. Again, all those goals falls under military geography. Sticking with the UN, we're going to look at the Security Council, what their main goals are. Again, we'll link it back to Canada's role within the UN Security Council. The Security Council is a division, is a branch that branches off the UN. It was formed and created by the United States, Britain, China, France, and Russia. These five nations have more control within the UN and the Security Council than other members. They are called into session to respond quickly to international crisis. But Canada's role within the UN and the Security Council goes back into peacekeeping. Peacekeeping. Again, a role that we take for granted, something that we are very proud of here in Canada, peacekeeping. Again, Canada's role within the UN Security Council is simply to protect civilians in war and other natural disasters. We supply medicine, food, clothing, and help within shelters to those who are in need. For example, what we do within the Red Cross. We help those in poverty, those who are in need, and we promote human rights. Again, freedom, democracy, all those is what we promote. Again, Canada's role within the Security Council. Then we wrapped up last class by looking at the Commonwealth of Nations, who are a part of the Commonwealth of Nations, how they become a member, why they are significant, and what they have in common. Commonwealth of Nations, simply any country that was once controlled by Britain at one point in history have now gained their own independence, own sovereignty, and have their own country. Again, any independent sovereign state, formerly a territory or colony, once of the British Empire. And as a result of that definition, Canada is a part of the Commonwealth of Nations because Canada, as we have looked at in the history portion, Canada was once a colony of the British Empire. We have strong links and ties and relationship with the British Empire, but now we in Canada, we joined Confederation in 1867. We now have our own legal rights within what we want to do within our own boundaries. What's make the Commonwealth of Nations unique is that they still maintain ties with other members and members with Britain or the British Empire. They all recognized Queen Elizabeth as the head of state, even though she has no political power within the Commonwealth of Nations. She is just a symbol of unity, something that we all have in common, looking towards the Queen in terms of unity. All nations in the Commonwealth of Nations, they have diverse economic backgrounds, promote democracy, human rights, good governance, friendship, and partnership. Map of the Commonwealth of Nations. Again, a map of the globe on my screen. Again, any countries indicated in dark blue indicates that they are a member of the Commonwealth of Nations. Again, you can see that Canada is a part of it. Some parts of South Africa was once colonized by Britain. Parts of Southeast Asia and even Australia. Again, they all just recognize that we have been a part of the British Empire. They all have their own sovereignty now, all independent country and nation, but they still recognize the Queen as something that we have in common, a symbol of unity within the Commonwealth of Nations. Again, to qualify to be a part of the Commonwealth is that, again, they have a country that once have ties or links to the British Empire at one point. The countries that I have listed on my screen, they at some point qualified to be a member or part of the Commonwealth, but they are not, even though they share the same economic, cultural, political views. Within the Commonwealth, they do not belong, and they are Egypt, Jordan, United States, Iraq, Kuwait, Hong Kong, and France. There are probably other countries listed as well, but these are just some countries that are not a part of the Commonwealth. Then we looked at assignment number 10. We won't go over that as we went over that last class. But again, just a bit of review of what we talked about last class to wrap things up based on lesson number 4 when looking at human geography. So let's get to lesson number 5 for today. and that is physical geography. Physical geography. Again, we're starting on page 40. In our textbook, again, the same textbook, brand new lesson, that's the same textbook. Page 40 in your textbook from the very top. Again, we're looking at physical geography. Again, something I want to emphasize. Again, there'll be lots of definitions that we will be going over. Again, anything that's highlighted in bold or in capital in your textbook. Again, key definitions that you will probably will have to identify within your textbook. So let's get to our learning goals for today. And then maybe we'll do a little bit of music break before we get started. Again, we have a very, very short lesson for today. Don't want to do too much. Welcome back. Little music break. That was awesome. Had no clue what that song was or what that song was about, but something that we should do more often is a little music break. Again, welcome back. This is PLAR History and Geography live here at WASA. My name is Jonathan. I am your teacher for this course. Yes, lesson number 5. That is our goal for today. Again, very short lesson. Hence why we added that little music break. But our goal for today is simply to look at Canadian geography, mainly towards its landscape and its formation. So today we'll be looking at regional geography of Canada with an emphasis on physical setting on region, spiritual patterns of economic activities, and urbanization, coral peripheral relationships with and within regions, and national and regional impacts of global economic reconstruction. So again, that's our pretty much our learning goal for today. We'll define 3 items, 3 topics. We'll be defining physical geography, region, and regional diversity. And boom, that is it for today. And then we'll look at assignments. Assignment 11. Assignment 11 at the end. Again, very short lesson. We'll see how long it takes. Again, there are 16 assignments in total for history and geography, which means that there are 8 assignments in the geography portion. And my goal for the rest of the term is to go over each assignment per class. Hence why we don't need to rush anything. Again, some assignments are longer compared to others, and this lesson is extremely short. We'll see how much I can plug in and fill in as well. So let's define physical geography. Put a little star beside it. Again, you'll see it in assignment 11. And you will need to define it. Physical geography is the study of natural features on the Earth's surface in its current aspect. The study of natural features of the Earth's surface in its current aspect. And that includes land formations, how different parts of the world are formed or have changed over the years, regions, what that all is all about. We'll talk about that more specifically in today's class. Their environments, how that's constantly changing and how that's around us. Climates, we'll be looking at global warming and climate change later on. Plants, trees, how that impact humans, how we disturb and impact the environment, and species that are endangered, how we impact biodiversity and the wildlife, such. But again, physical geography is a study of natural features of the Earth's surface in its current aspect. Remember that definition? You will see it come up again. So what is a region? Something that we have heard a lot. This is a region. We live in this region. This is part of that region. But what is a region? How do we define it? Well, a region is just simply an area or a place that has a defined set of characteristics. That's it. Something that they have in common, something that they share, a set of characteristics that makes it stand out, hence why it is called a region. Again, it could be simple as a mountain, a river, a lake, a stream, a forest, anything, and I mean anything. So for example, out west, again, Banff National Parks, again, mountains, that is a region. The Great Lakes, again, particular region. Again, any set defined characteristics is called a region. Again, that could include mountains, rivers, you name it. Again, some regions have imaginary lines that are not actually physically there. There are imaginary lines that divide into territories. Okay, imaginary lines that divide into different territories. So for example, here in Canada, we have 10 provinces and 3 territories. There are no actual physical line that tells you when or where a province begin. It is just an imaginary line that defines with that region. Okay, we'll talk about maps, cartographers, they make maps, and then we'll be talking about latitude and longitude later on at the end of this course. But again, a region, a set defined characteristic, something that they have in common. So again, looking at a map of Canada, again, we have different provinces, coast to coast. We are a massive country. We have different territories. Again, but by the outline of each province, there are no physical line. There are imaginary lines that defines when or where a province ends. Okay, so as you drive from Silicon and towards Winnipeg, there is no physical line that says you are now entering Manitoba. There's a sign that says you are now entering Manitoba, but there are no physical boundaries that tells you how it's divided or separated. Again, different regions, different provinces or territories has its own characteristics. So for example, out west in BC, again, mountains, as they move towards the prairies, flatland agriculture, again, move towards southern Ontario, very populated, dense urban living conditions. Again, we have the northern territories, the Arctic regions, based on its climates, is known as territories, and so forth as well. Again, a region defines as a set characteristic. But here in Canada, we have not just provinces and territories, but we can even be classified as different regions. Again, that could be Northern Canada, that includes our territories. The West, simply BC and Alberta, or the mountains, okay, based on their regions. Again, the prairies, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, because of its agriculture and its flat landform and landscape. Central Canada simply consists of Ontario and Quebec, since we're pretty much in the middle. And we have the East Coast. Again, Newfoundland, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, PEI, the East Coast, because they're on the East Coast. Again, different regions, different areas in Canada. Again, we are a massive country that goes coast to coast. Different regions have different characteristics. Again, it could be absolutely anything. Again, Northern Canada based on its climates. Out west based on its mountains. East Coast could be its fishing. Again, different resources, different factors, climates can define a region. But we can even break that down into even further. We're looking at the province of Ontario, it is a massive province. Tons of people live here. Massive province. And we often associate Ontario as Northern Ontario or Southern Ontario. But again, there's no actual line or a set definition of where that begins. Again, pretty much anything north and west of Sudbury, give or take, people call it as Northern Ontario or Northwestern Ontario. And anything below that, again, people often associate that as Southern Ontario. But again, there's no actual definition of where that begins. They just associate as Northwestern Ontario and Southern Ontario. Here in Sioux Lookout, we are considered Northern Ontario, Northwestern Ontario. Again, what makes different regions unique compared to Southern Ontario and Northwestern Ontario can be simply defined based on its population. As we know that as we move towards Southern Ontario, Toronto, Hamilton, Ottawa, Mississauga, Brampton, all those major cities, Windsor, London, Waterloo, again, tons of heavy, dense based on its population. Tons of people live here, more jobs opportunity, and whatnot. But as we move towards Northwestern Ontario or Northern Ontario, again, it could be, my definition would be anything north or west of Sudbury. Again, decrease in terms of its population and what north. Again, all the communities that we serve here at Wassa, it is located in Northwestern Ontario, give or take. But again, different regions, there's no actual definition. People that live in Southern Ontario consider north as anything above Barrie. But again, not really north. But again, it starts to move away from that heavy, dense, populated area. Hence why people associate Barrie as north or northern or something. But again, not really actually Northwestern Ontario. Again, just based on its definition, we look at population and people. Population or the number of people in different regions. Okay, based on regions. So now we're going to define regional diversity. Very unique terminology, regional diversity. Basically taking the word region, which we already defined, and the word diversity, which is more than one or different. Here in Canada, we can classify regional diversity into 3 categories, and that could be climate. As here in Canada, it could be hot, it could be cold, it could be cool, it could be a blizzard outside. Who knows? Okay, so depending on where you live in Canada and which season it is and which time of month it is, it impacts the climate as is different weather conditions. So for example, again, out on the west coast or on the east coast, by the oceans, that impacts the weather. Okay, oceans impact weather, so it could rain or snow more in those particular area. In northern Canada, again, it could have less than 8 hours of daylight or no daylight at all, give or take. Again, different factors. Okay, Great Lakes, if you live by a lake, again, that could impact weather as well. From my experience, when I was in Thunder Bay, since Lake Superior's right there, we often get a lot of snow based on the effects from Lake Superior. That's climate. Again, in summertime in southern Ontario, hot, humid, sticky, gross, disgusting. But as you go northwestern Ontario, it's hot, but it's a dry hot. It's not that humid or as sticky as it is. It's dry cold, dry hot up here in northwestern Ontario. Another factor of regional diversity is culture. We know that Canada is a multicultural society. We all come from different backgrounds, different race, different religion, different ethnicity. We're all different. We all come from different countries, whether we're indigenous, non-indigenous, have backgrounds from Asia, Europe. We're all different in terms of our culture. And everywhere we go, we always need to remember our culture, our identity, what we practice, our tradition. Again, Canada, we are unique, we are diverse, hence why it's different regions. Again, different regions may have more different ethnicity. For example, in northwestern Ontario, there are more First Nation communities compared to southern Ontario, and so forth. But again, as we move westwards into Alberta and BC, again, different population, different race. And that even goes towards Indigenous culture as well. Again, Indigenous culture does not just have one identity. There are multiple, whether it's Cree, Ojibwe, Mohawk, or whatnot. And it's all different. There's tons. I know there's tons of different languages. Again, here in Canada, different culture, different regions. We all come from a diverse background. Something that we can be extremely proud of. Number 3, topographical regions. Again, as we know, Canada, massive. We have it all. Mountains, lakes, Arctic regions, lowlands, you name it. Trees, forests, Canadian Shield, where we see nothing but trees all day. We have it all here in Canada. Fishing population on the East Coast. Again, different regions, flat agriculture, difference. Hence why Canada is very diverse. We have it all. So again, please note of the 3 different regional diversity. Climatic, cultural, topographical regions here in Canada. Regional diversity. So that's regional diversity when looking at Canada. In Ontario, for example, whether it's northwestern Ontario or southern Ontario, but the definition of region can even be expanded when looking at Europe. So based on my studies, I have looked at the notions of Western and Eastern European. Again, visual landscape help to understand society and development. So if I go back a couple slides and look at a map of Ontario, again, the visual landscape of this province of Ontario helps to understand society and its development. What's growing, what's not growing, who has more resources, who have more access, who doesn't, and whatnot. Again, visual landscape, if we go back to the map of Europe, so when looking at this map of Europe during my studies, again, but you can even look at it as space and place at different regions. Again, we talked about, I can even break this down into looking at Eastern and Western Europe. So this is Western Europe on this half and Eastern Europe on this half. Prior to modern Europe, Eastern Europe was known as the land of the unknown, the land that needs to be colonized by the West. Representation of space and place can occur in a region within regions. Modern Europe, which is the map I have on my screen right now, has evolved into an interconnected territorial body that consists of problematic regions and subregions that portray different perception of local identities known as others. Others in quotation marks. Eastern and Western Europe. So there was this one book that I once read. It was called Investing Eastern Europe, and that was by Larry Wolff. Interesting book, interesting argument that he posed in this book. He notes that at one point before modern Europe, it was known as Eastern Europe and Western Europe, this divide. It was known as Eastern Europe was known as quotation mark others. They were known as mysterious. As a metaphor, as when traveler first got here, they were known as backwards in terms of society. They were unknown, a land that was mysterious, that needs to be entered, and needs to be colonized. Whereas the Western Europe was known as civilized and progress, modern day society. As a result, it needs to be expanded based on its knowledge, based on its thinking, based on its language. Again, that whole notion of Eastern and Western Europe. Again, Eastern Europe was known as the other, the land of the unknown, mysterious. They were backward thinkers and needs to be enlightened. And that was the argument that was posed by Larry Wolff in his book called Investing Eastern Europe. Again, the whole notion of different regions, Eastern and Western, civilized, uncivilized, savage, unsavage, unknown, unknown, and so forth. Again, I thought I would plug that in because it relates back to what we're talking about in terms of regions. So let's get to today's assignments, and that is assignment number 11. Very short lesson. It doesn't get simpler than this, class. Assignment 11 is only out of 9 marks. Again, doesn't get any easier than this. One of the shortest assignments in this course. Very straightforward. Number 1, what is physical geography? 2 marks. So again, you can start off by saying physical geography let's study off, ... Again, that is on the very top of page 40 in your textbook. Again, what is physical geography? Question number 2, also out 2 marks. What is a region? Again, you can start by saying a region can be defined as, again, also on page 40 in your textbook. Again, a region, anything, any area, place that has a set common characteristic. It could be anything. It could be language, it could be religion, it could be identity, it could be population, it could be weather, it could be land forms, anything. Okay, that is a region. Question number 3. talks about name 3 of Canada's different regions. Name 3 of Canada's different regions. But to be more precise, I'm talking about regional diversity. I'm looking for regional diversity. Name 3 of Canada's regional diversity. Again, I'm not looking for Northern Canada or Central Canada or East Coast or West Coast. That is different regions of Canada, but to be more precise within that question, question number 3, I'm looking for different regional diversity in Canada. And if you're wondering, they are climatic, it is cultural, and topographical. Boom, right there. And last question, question number 4 out of 2 marks. Again, probably one of the better questions, something that I look forward to when reading. When you submit this question, why do you think Canada has so many climates? Why do you think? Okay, again, this is an opinion-based question. Technically, no right or wrong answer, as long as you explain your thinking. Why do you think Canada has so many climates? Again, there's many factors that you can take into your account. Again, why does Canada have so many different climates? Yes, we are a big country. What do we have? But why do you have so many different climates? We know we have 4 different seasons: summer, winter, fall, autumn. But why do you have so many? Okay, tell me what do you think? Again, there's no right or wrong answer. It is just an opinion-based question. Again, I really look forward to this because it demonstrates your thinking, critical thinking, flexible thinking, based from your own experience. Why do you think there are so many different climates in Canada? Again, that's all 2 marks. And that right there, class, is assignment number 11. Again, very short assignments, 4 marks, very straightforward, should take no time. Again, class, you can do that right now, and I mean right now on the spot. Grab a pencil, grab a pen, write them out. Okay, it should take you no more than like 10 minutes, give or take. Then give it to your DC right now. Tell them to fax it off to me. That way I can get it by tomorrow morning. Mark it, boom, done. Move on to the next assignment. Okay, don't waste time, work hard, work on these assignments. We're almost done in a term. Again, there are only 3 more weeks left in this term, term 2B. And again, the deadline to submit any work is Friday, June the 17th. So again, 3 more weeks left after this week to submit those work. Again, don't be discouraged, don't give up. If you're stuck, let me know. I'm here to help. But again, assignment 11, very, very short. So next week, we are going to continue looking at lesson number 5. We'll continue looking at physical geography throughout the rest of the term. But we'll be looking at different landform regions here in Canada. Canadian Shield, Niagara, Bioreserve, types of rocks, and assignment number 12. Again, very short lesson for next class next week, but we'll play by ear. We'll see how much I can integrate or plug in. Again, feel free to call in, join us in class. I'm more than welcome to help you in your questions or any difficulties you have. Maybe we'll throw in another music break next class, because why not? Maybe I'll create a little playlist, something different, but change it up. Again, if you have any questions, again, give me a call. You know where to find me. Email me. Stop by Wasta on Front Street. We can work on it together. Again, 3 more weeks left to submit your work. Again, class, today's a very short lesson. No surprises there. And I think we are going to wrap things up as we're almost done for this day. And that's it. I think we'll stop it here for today. And I'll see everyone next week on Tuesday. Go Pens Go tonight for Game 7. I know who I'll be cheering for. And I'll see everyone here next week. Thank you.